This is Louis, and if you feel like playing some games or buying some statues related to the anime, check out the Ultimate Summer Sale at Play Asia. That's right, Play Asia, my affiliate. The link can be found in the description below. If you don't feel like playing games or buying a statuette,
and if you fancy a good wank,
check out J-List. Whether it's Play Asia or J-List, check out my affiliate. If not, how about checking out my Patreon account and supporting me there? Patreon. We haven't fucked up in a while, we swear. All the links, as always, are in the description.
So this is Louis, and I'm going to try doing this commentary for a third time. First time I kind of stumbled a bit, and the second time I had a bee fly in my fucking car, or my SUV. And it wasn't one of those, it wasn't like a hornet or a wasp. It was a one of those smaller, like orangish yellow bees. It was a bee, but I don't like bees.
later.
But the only bee that is safe in my book are the big fat bumblebees. Those bees are fine. They don't really, like I said, they don't really do anything. They kind of just fly around, and they're real slow, and that's why I like them. They're slow, they're puffy, and they don't really do anything. But every other kind of bee, they can all fucking die. But other than that tangent to start, let's talk about this comic strip provided by Diversity in Comics, otherwise known as Richard Meyer. As far as you know, this is a page from the comic Border Town. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think it's from that comic. And it's a ridiculous, propagandistic SJW comic. And so what this is, I believe, something that Richard has pointed out in the past, and that's SJW writers putting really logical and fair-minded things into or thoughts into the minds or opinions of what are supposed to be villains. So when you take the idea of a bunch of white rednecks in the middle of Arizona talking about politics, and one jumping up on the back of a pickup truck and being the leader, what you're expecting to hear is, you know, I don't like spics and these Mexicans and blah, blah, blah. It's supposed to be something that is specifically racial. I've seen, what was that one with that one Mexican actor that was like a reformed criminal? Machete is the name of the movie, but I'm trying to remember the name of the actor. Danny Trejo, I think it is. You're supposed to be going against clearly racists. People that are villainous, psychopathic, and that are not really someone you can sympathize with because they're too far gone. They're too, easily distinguishable as evil and psychopathic and racist. And as it relates to racism, in the purest form of it, the most easily distinguishable as evil, it's very hard to sympathize, and so it's very easy to then sympathize with the actor or the protagonist who goes against them. That is very easy in terms of storytelling. You have a guy in a pickup truck who's a racist who says, fuck Mexicans, fuck the spics, fuck these wetbacks, let's kill them. It's very easy to then look at that guy and say, that is a villain. That is someone that I don't like because he's a racist, he's a violent psychopath, he's a criminal, and in his own mind he thinks it's justified to kill people just because they're a different skin pigmentation to him. Where we start getting into murky territory is when it starts getting legalistic, where it's not about fuck the spic, it's fuck the illegal. That's where it starts to become a problem. Now, in Machete, for example, it did get into that a little bit, but the bad guys were still the bad guys because they were still advocating violence. They were still doing things that were way over the top and goofy. It was a grindhouse movie, so to say, but it was still something that was clearly black and white. You knew who the bad guys were, you knew they were evil, and you know who the good guys were. And even though it was graphic and violent, it somewhat blurred the lines, it was still easy to see who you rooted for. Same case with, let's say, in Machete was Rodriguez. I think that was who did it, who's associated with Quentin Tarantino in that graphic style and depiction of movies. I think he also did that vampire movie, which I didn't really like.
2 hours later.
A thoroughly written bad guy. A bad guy that you have to know is the bad guy. Once you blur the lines too much, that's when I think fiction stops working. You can like a villain, but you shouldn't be in the position of not recognizing the villain for what, he or she is. You must recognize the villain for what they are. They can't simply be the antagonist. It can't just be that, because then they become stock. They become hollow. It doesn't work, in my opinion. Maybe you can pull it off because you're the genius writer that you are, but in my opinion, they have to be recognizable as not just the antagonist, but as the villain of the story. It doesn't mean that like I said with Payback, it doesn't mean you can't have a protagonist that is also a villain, but they must be the arch-villain in that case. So getting to this comic strip, I know that was a lot of talking to get to this comic strip, but this is something that Richard has gone over but hasn't actually explained to the depth that I just explained it, where the reasoning of the villains makes too much sense. It's not a guy in a pickup truck saying the spics, wearing a Klan hood and saying, I'm going to go hang myself a nigger. It's not something that you can just write off as, okay, they are a stock villain. They are a stock antagonist. I already know their motivation. They're a racist. They hate these people because they're not white. I realize what their reasoning is. Okay, let's go see them get beat up and taken out. Maybe we can make them look more ominous because maybe they're the mayor or they're the county executive and they have all kinds of power and the cops are on their side. Maybe let's give them some depth to why we should fear them and see the real scale of the odds between the hero and the villain. But there's none of that. And so let's get into this page. Okay, so let's read it. So these are a bunch of rednecks in Arizona, and the leader of their redneck group is on the back of a pickup truck with an American flag, and he says, "The American dream is dead. Viva of the American nightmare. Back when Uncle Sam paid the Mexicans $10 million American dollars for Arizona, there wasn't nothing but a long-ass stretch of sand, scorpions, and Indians." The next panel says, "Now after we spilled our blood making this place somewhere worth living, these lazy sons of bitches want to waltz on back in, I believe it's supposed to say, editing, where's the editors, and pretend like we're the assholes for not giving them what is rightfully, legally ours. Pardon my French, but fuck that noise." So, we're going to stop before we get to the next panel. This panel, the panel with the guy with the anime picture on the back of his jacket, which is a whole other separate thing, which again, we're just going to put aside. This is something that by itself makes sense. This is not something that I would expect to hear from the mouth of a villain who says, yes, Arizona is a state in the Union. We are citizens of the state. We are Arizonians. We built the roads. We pay the taxes. We started the businesses. We tilled the soil. This is our land. That is objectively true. That is an objectively true statement. This is their land. They are on their own pieces of property, of which they built the businesses. They tilled the soil. They paid for the roads that were built by the government that is their representative government. This is everything that logically, legally, philosophically is justified. None of this is controversial. This is not something that should be coming out of the mouth of a villain. It is reasoning that is too close to that of myself. I sympathize with that. I don't want foreign SOBs coming into my state, my territory, my property, not growing the crops, not paying the taxes, not building the infrastructure, and all the rest. This is something that is justified. This is a justified belief. This is a different state, being in Arizona, but I am a citizen of New York. I am a New Yorker. I am a citizen of the United States of America, of which New York is a state of the Union. I'm a citizen of this nation, and I'm entitled to all of the entitlements that I'm due in terms of the government, in terms of my representative government, in terms of my own hard labor, and in terms of every piece of property that I have purchased, whether it's this vehicle that I'm sitting in, or soon to be the $200,000 house roundabout that I'm going to buy. I'm entitled to that because all the money that I've earned has been through my own work. I'm entitled to my own property. I know that people get into the weeds of not understanding like the philosophy of the politics of this, but this is the fundamental basis of a liberal Western representative government. My Constitution has enumerated me rights, and my government guarantees those rights, enacts those rights, enforces those rights. My rights. If you come onto my property and I want you removed, you're trespassing. You're violating my rights. Get off my property. Cops are going to come in, remove you. That's the position of the state. You steal from me, I call the cops. They go, hey, that's larceny. We're going to take back the property. We're going to arrest you for violating this person's rights, and they're going to, hopefully, it doesn't happen much, unfortunately, but it's ideal, they return my property to me. The purpose of laws, law enforcement, the Constitution, and the government is to protect my rights. That is the philosophical foundation of our nation as a liberal, Western, representative government. That is the fundamentals of it. Guaranteeing our individual rights, guaranteeing our property rights, and that we are our own property. We have individual sovereignty. That is the foundation of the United States. That is the foundation of America, and that is the role of the government. The role of the government is not collective rights. It's not that we're slaves to the state, that the government owns us, or is just, we're renters living on the government's land. That is not the role of our government. It's the absolute opposite. Philosophically speaking, that is objectively true. It was the vision and the ideal of the Founding Fathers. It was the purpose of the Revolutionary War. If it wasn't the philosophical foundation of the United States, it wouldn't be in the fucking Constitution. It is specifically enumerated in the Constitution. The reason for the government, that is why it's there. It is to guarantee our individual rights as citizens of this nation. This is not a small thing. This is not something that should be just waved away. It is dangerous to just say out of hand that is just some old white bullshit, as these people would call it. That is dangerous thinking. That is rejecting the foundation of what it means to be an American, of what it means. Those are the fundamental values of what it is to be an American. Individual rights, property rights, liberty, in the truest sense of what the reason for the government is. And again, I'm a statist. I'm not a libertarian. I'm not a lunatic, anarchist. I'm a statist. I believe the government should exist, but the role of the government is to guarantee our rights as citizens. And there's plenty of conservatives and libertarians that disagree on what the role of government is, and if it's not specifically enumerated, then it doesn't. The government shouldn't do X because it's not enumerated. But again, that's a debate. But the issue is that philosophically, we have to agree. We all have to agree that this applies. Our rights apply to only citizens. We have to agree to that. We don't have a nation if we don't all agree to that. It only applies to citizens. Why? Because that is the purpose of the government. That is the purpose of representative government, to guarantee the rights and represent the interests of the citizenry, those that vote in, those people that are supposed to be in Congress, in the White House, where have you, to represent our rights and our interests. That is the foundation of a democratic republic, of which that's what we are, in a technical sense. This is not a small thing. This is not some white bullshit, some conservative bullshit. This is the liberal stance. And this is one of the big things. Like, I'm fine with you calling yourself a liberal, but you must agree to this. If you want to call yourself a socialist where you don't believe in property rights, fine. You're a fucking socialist. That's great. You're a fucking insane revolutionary, and in my opinion, you should be suppressed because you're dangerous. The way you think is dangerous. You're a fucking totalitarian, so you should be suppressed because you want to take away my fucking rights. You're crazy. To call yourself a socialist is a big deal. If you're ignorant to what it actually means, like if you're a social democrat or whatever, and you don't understand what you're saying, then I think people shouldn't harangue you. They should say specifically, what do you mean by that? Do you mean X? Do you mean Y? Do you believe in collective rights? Do you believe in the government should just have supremacy and no one has individual sovereignty, that the government is not there to guarantee the rights, the individual rights of citizens? Then fine, you're a socialist, but then you're dangerous. You're a revolutionary. You want to overthrow our government. You want to overthrow the foundation that our government and our society is built upon. You are a fundamentally dangerous fucking person. This is the line that this comic is standing on. They are on the line of going from these bad guys are racists because they don't overtly display that, to that of these people are in essence civic nationalists, where they say, I'm a nationalist, I have nativistic / nationalist sentiment, But ultimately, I believe in individual rights and the fact that I have every right to be here as a citizen, and if you're not here as a citizen, and especially not here legally, you don't have the right to be here. If you disagree with that, you're crazy. You're ultimately a revolutionary. You don't believe that there's a difference between citizen and non-citizen. And ultimately, in that sense, if you want to infiltrate our government, you want to, in essence, build some kind of utopian aristocracy. You don't believe in quote-unquote democracy. You don't believe in representative government because you're not representing citizens. You're representing foreign nationals. That is not representative government. You believe in aristocracy, and you are fundamentally dangerous to this nation because what you're going to ultimately do, this is unquestionably going to happen. You're going to take away our rights. You're going to take away the rights of these rednecks in Arizona. You're going to take away my rights. You're going to take away everyone's rights. Because that's the only way you can win. That's the only way. Look at the EU. That's the only way aristocracy works. You have to take away representative government. You have to take away the ability for people to vote out utopian lunatics and vote in those that represent the interests of their constituency. I don't care if you're the most furthest left person and you hate conservatives. I'm in farming country as I communicate this to you. I'm in a red county. Practically everyone around me is majority Republican or leans Republican, leans conservative, is a Christian, goes to church, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, they have every right to vote for their representative. They have every right to vote in a conservative or Republican government or legislature or county executive or executive in the White House. They have every fucking right to do that. That is the purpose of a representative government, representative style governance. They have every right to vote in whomever they deem to be representing their interests correctly, according to them. They have every right to do that, and you have to respect that. You have to respect that. They are citizens, and that is the style of our government. If you don't want that government, move the fuck out of this country. Like, I don't know how else to explain this to these people. If you want to overthrow our government because you lost or you can't get the people you want elected, move. Move. Move to another state. Move to another county, move to another city, move out of the fucking country. If there's not a city in the country that doesn't reflect your interests, your politics, move the fuck out of this country. Seriously, and I'm not saying that as just a throwaway, as a derogatory statement made to just dismiss you. I'm saying if you don't understand the purpose of representative governance, you gotta go. You got to go. You gotta go. You have to leave. Move to San Francisco, move to Portland, move to Seattle, Washington, move to the Bay Area in general, move to LA, move to New York City. Oh, don't, please don't. As a New Yorker, please don't. Move to Massachusetts, Boston, okay, Boston or somewhere, Austin, Texas. Move somewhere that is a hub of leftist dogma. Move there. And if they're not left enough for you because they're not socialist enough, just get the fuck out of this country. Go to Venezuela. You know, go to somewhere that's actually credibly socialist enough. Go to Cuba for now, even though they're not trending in your direction in terms of your politics. But you got to go. Because, I'm sorry, but no one is going to allow you to overthrow our system in the name of some bullshit. In the name of tyranny and aristocracy. You know, aristocracy's been tried before in terms of that style of governance. It's a disaster. It's tyranny. It's oppressive. It's disastrous. It's collectivist. It's awful. There's no greater form of tyranny than living in a totalitarian society where you have no rights, where you have no means by which to be your own person, to be an individual, to have your rights respected. Those style governments, they do not have the capacity to reflect that. They are in themselves just tyrannical. Look at any country that has been either socialist or communist, where it's just non-stop repression of speech, thought, education, artistic expression, everything. They are the most hellish societies to live in. And that's what you're advocating for. When you are advocating away from individual sovereignty, individual rights, representative government, when you're advocating away from that, which is what socialism is, you are arguing in favor of tyranny. You must think that in the end you're going to be the one holding the gun, and that after you've killed off all the individualists, all the conservatives, all the actually principled liberals. Like, once you kill off of all those people, you're going to be living in utopia. This must be what your end goal is, because I'm not abiding to this. I'm not abiding to you taking away my rights as a fucking sovereign individual or as a citizen. I'm not allowing you to take away my rights, which is what you're advocating for. That is what you're advocating for. Once you start talking about the illegitimacy of property rights and of citizenry or citizenship and the rest of it, once you start advocating the elimination of those things or the abolition of enforcement of those things, you're advocating for stripping away my rights. That is your end goal. That is what you're pursuing. And that's why, in my opinion, it justifies your suppression, because you are a revolutionary. You are calling for the removal of rights of other people. People that may not even be standing against you or objecting to you directly. It's just that they exist. The fact that they exist and they vote against you in the government that exists now, that to you is oppression. Or at least in some sense in power politics, standing opposed to you. They are your enemies, ideologically and politically, so then you must then oppress them. You must then take away their rights, just simply because they don't agree with you. All this shit is dangerous. And that's why, like, when I see people on Twitter talking about how this, or Cortez cunt in New York City is not dangerous. No, she absolutely is fucking dangerous. Just because every conservative is a fucking retard and they can't properly explain it is on them. But that doesn't make her any less dangerous. When you see her being a member of a party that's calling for the abolition of borders, the abolition of capital, of profit, which is the abolition of property rights, you're dealing with someone who is fundamentally fucking dangerous. She doesn't believe in property rights. She doesn't believe in individual rights. She doesn't believe in those things. She doesn't believe in individualism. She is a radical fucking collectivist revolutionary. She is unfucking questionably dangerous. She is a radical lunatic, a utopian lunatic who is going to be in the trenches, directing the fucking soldiers to, shoot us into a mass grave. People like me that will not abide with that bullshit. You can pretend as though that this isn't fucking dangerous, but it absolutely is. She is absolutely a dangerous person. And every member of our country that is a knowing socialist, who is an actual socialist, they are dangerous people. Say whatever you want to about me or whatever, whatever gotcha bullshit you want to try. They are fucking dangerous. They should be suppressed. They are calling for the elimination of individual rights for every citizen. No matter, what our politics individually are, even if, you're a super right-wing Christian conservative and I'm a leftist who's center-left and a actual principled liberal, the best that I can possibly be, or even if I'm just like a hippy-dippy dipshit, pot-smoking, 420 leftist in that regard, no matter who we're talking about, so long as we agree that we have property rights, that we have individual rights, and we should be enforcing the Constitution, and our government should be representative. So long as we agree to those things, we're fine. We can abide by one another in a pluralistic society and just disagree politically. We can be neighbors, maybe argue politically, but that's it. That's where it stops. So long as we respect each other's rights, it's not a fucking problem. We live in what is a pluralistic society, and that's good. That is ideal. That's what we should value as a society, and I believe we do. I believe in the United States, the hefty majority, if not near totality, of Americans respect and abide by pluralism. We agree. We disagree politically, but that's fine. We respect each other's rights. Socialists don't agree. They aren't pluralists. They are totalitarian. They see anyone who is not on their side as an enemy, and that will eventually be oppressed. That is simply true. Because again, they don't respect property rights. They deny property rights. They deny they exist. They deny that capital is such a thing. They deny that you can hold capital. Capital to them is something that should be seized for an end. So getting all the way back to this comic strip, and I know that this has been a winding commentary, they then move on to say, I'd rather die than let that happen. I'd rather kill than let that happen. Who's with me? And then they, make America great again, motherfucker. I laughed at that because I was like, yeah, make America great again, motherfucker. It's hard for me to just have a guy say, quote, make America great again, motherfucker, and be like, yeah, I disagree. Like, no, I agree. Yeah, make America great again, motherfucker. I agree. By the way, this shirt, of "Don't Tread on Me" with the Ku Klux Klan crosses, which I believe that's supposed to be. I find that to be just offensive intellectually because I dislike libertarians in that I disagree with them philosophically. But exactly, like, you agree with them more. Like, libertarians, in large part, are fucking open borders lunatics. Why are you making... Because that "Don't Tread on Me," the Gadsden shit, is a sign of libertarianism. Where you don't even disagree with them. So why are you making them out to be, like, white nationalists or racists? Like, they're not. Libertarians, philosophically, as far as I understand, are in no way racist. They are, in many ways, open borders lunatics. They're just hyper-capitalist anarchists, anarcho-capitalists. And that's why I disagree with them. I'm a statist. I don't agree. You know, and I know they're going, "Oh, I'm a minarchist. Don't worry, Louis, I'm just a minarchist." Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't agree. We're just going to have to disagree there. I can sympathize with certain libertarian sentiments and that sort of thing, especially as it relates to government overreach and individual sovereignty and all that sort of thing. It starts to me getting annoying with, like, "Oh, I'm an open borders advocate," and blah, 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 privatize everything and toll the roads, and especially the sovereign citizenship and, like, trying to, like, provoke cops. And I hate that shit. I really do. There's a lot of stuff about libertarianism that's cringy and irritating and that I just don't agree with as someone who is a statist, is a nationalist, doesn't agree that we should have no government, because I think that's a utopian bullshit delusion. And by the way, it's also oppressive in that I don't agree with your philosophy, so are you going to shoot me? So, like, what are we going to do here? I'm never going to vote for a true libertarian who's going to try to abolish the government, so what happens to me? Do I get shot? Do I get, like, expelled? Like, exiled? What happens to me, libertarians? Explain to me what happens. I'm never going to abide. You're never going to fucking terraform my mind to agree. So what happens? But anyways, so yeah, I find this shirt to be offensive in intellectually speaking, because libertarians are not racist. I've yet to meet an actual, like, you know, foaming at the mouth libertarian who then goes on to say, "Yeah, by the way, Louis, I hate niggers." Like, that doesn't happen. That is not something that occurs from someone who is intellectually and philosophically a libertarian. You're going to be pretty hard-pressed to find that. But again, this comic strip, this page, is a disaster. It's a disaster because you're putting politics in the mouths of these rednecks that are very easy to defend. Philosophically, legally, very easy to defend. So what the fuck are you doing? And also with the thing of, like, the whole sentiment of "Make America Great Again, motherfucker," like, again, like, you can only do that from the perspective if you make it very clear that they are villainous. Like, if they say "Make America White Again," then it's very easy to distinguish. Yeah, you're putting your politics in there as an author, but they're villainous. They're villains, they're racist. Okay, we get it. But they're saying "Make America Great Again," I believe in borders, I believe in legality, etc., philosophically. It's like, you have a guy on a pickup truck making a very clear philosophical argument that I can't disagree with. I disagree with his call for violence, obviously, because he's not a cop. He has body armor in that, but he's not a cop. He's not a law enforcement officer. But he is calling for law enforcement. He is calling for the law to be enforced. I can't disagree. I don't disagree. The law should be enforced because I believe in the state. I believe in the law. I believe as a citizen that we should have a representative government, that we should have property rights, and it should be enforced through the law. What the fuck then? What the fuck? The disaster of this is you making this representative of what is the left, what is the right. You're trying to separate the left and the right in this way, but it's like you're making the standpoint simply because these guys are nationalists, want to enforce the law, believe they have every right to their own property and their own nation, that's something wrong, that's something villainous, when it's not. It's not. That is not villainous. Maybe they can go too far, and that, you know, they're this crazy vigilante group, but the thing is that they're not even, you're not distinguishing them as villains. You're not distinguishing, other than the call to violence, what exactly the problem is. In the case of this, what if it's the case in Arizona where the government is not enforcing the laws? What if that's the situation? What if that's why they're angry and why they're taking up arms, is their own government are not enforcing their own laws? The government is no longer the government of the people, of the citizenry. They are the aristocracy. What if that's the case? And it can very well be in certain liberal, I used it myself. Certain leftist, far leftist, progressive cities, counties in the country that aren't reflecting the interests of the citizens. What then? This calls into question some very serious issues. Some very fundamental things about what it means to be a citizen of the United States of America. This is very serious. And this is just like waving your hand away, like, oh, this dismissing the whole idea of sovereignty. National sovereignty. You're just dismissing it. It's insane to me. But I'll just leave it there because I think I've been talking for quite a long time. Yeah, this is two factors of writing villains in terms of a narrative and also, like, what it actually means to be an American. Like, what do you actually believe? Like, we all have to agree to certain aspects of what it means to be a citizen of the United States of America in order to live in this society together. We must be within the boundaries of the U.S. Constitution. We must be within those boundaries if we are to live in a pluralistic society. Otherwise, violence is just inevitable. Revolution is just inevitable. In my opinion, my view is, I want to live in a pluralistic society. I want to live within the boundaries, my politics are within the boundaries of the United States Constitution. We live in a pluralistic society. It's just that conservatives and I disagree. We disagree on healthcare, we disagree on abortion, we disagree on God, and blah, 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 blah. You know, we disagree on these different factors, but we're not calling for violence. We're not trying to deny each other's rights. Because once you start doing that, you fall outside the boundaries of the United States Constitution. You start being a totalitarian. You start throwing away the whole purpose of pluralism. And that makes you the person that should be suppressed because you're the fucking dangerous person. You're the one trying to take away everyone's rights. You're fucking insane. You're dangerous. You are objectively fucking dangerous in respect to what is enumerated in the Constitution. The fact that you're trying to overthrow a pluralistic liberal society in the name of some utopian bullshit. But I'm just going to leave it there. Thanks for listening.